Hello, everyone. This is Jim Ogrozinski with part two of the chapter four lecture videos. So, in our previous video, we discussed organizational patterns, whether it's an argumentative logic or it is a narrative logic in exploring your research topic. Remember, the narrative logic is more of the exploratory, where you discuss your topic, and the argumentative is the standard format, thesis driven format, I should say, where you propose your main point, your thesis, and you spend the rest of your essay supporting that. So you want to double check and look back at lecture number one on those organizational patterns. So in this particular portion of the chapter four lectures, we are going to discuss how to consider the reader in drawing up your research essay draft. And at the end, I will discuss the first draft of the research essay that will be due on Tuesday, next Tuesday. So you want to give your readers a sense of purpose throughout your essay. A strong lead establishes that purpose. So hopefully through exercise 4.3, you're able to develop a strong introduction for your research essay. You always want to return to the main point or the thesis by examining the relevance of each source to your question or thesis, right? What do your sources that you've been collecting have to do to contribute toward the conversation of your research topic, right? Working common ground. What are my readers' own experiences with my topics? You have to keep people in mind here, right? Is there some way in my paper that I can help them see that's relevant to them? So I always ask questions like, so what? Who cares? Why does this matter to me? These are important questions that you should seek answers to as you are writing your research essay draft, right? So you want to make your presence felt, and if you're using personal experience as academic evidence, which you can use in this particular research essay, you have to figure out how you want to say I, right? We had this conversation early in the semester. I think it's important to use I when you're making a point, but sometimes it kind of shifts the focus of an essay more away from the topic to the individual, namely you. So remember, regardless of the organizational pattern that you're using, to limit how you use I. It is sometimes a real redundant construction and it kind of shifts it. This is not your story, this is about your research topic. Once again, if you can use personal experience as academic evidence, that's consider your experience to be like a source. You're going to frame it off into a kind of a paragraph, and it's not going to dominate your draft. Okay. So when a writer stops pretending that the text talks instead of the author and actually enters into their text, there's a greater likelihood of a genuine conversation happening. Words that should not be in your research essay are words like this article says. If you have an author for the source you are integrating into your particular research essay, use the author's name. A human being wrote that article. It is better to have a conversation with a human than an inanimate object like an article or a publication. Okay, this is why I kind of stress the collection of sources that are authored as opposed to unauthored. It's easier to have a conversation with the person. You always refer to the author. When I get an essay draft coming in, the first draft coming in, and I got repeatedly get, this article says, you're not having a conversation. You are giving me a glorified annotated bibliography. So you want to be able to control quotations. You want to find your own way of saying things and paraphrasing summary. Hence the object behind the double entry journal. Find your own way of seeing things. You've got to seize opportunities to comment, evaluate, relate, define, interpret, establish significance to your topic, right? You control the conversation. Only 10 to 20% of your research essay can be quotes. not half. Otherwise, then you're working too much with the words of others. So you have to make your presence felt, right? You want to put people on the page. So there should be a little blurb in your book there. E.B. White said that in order to write about humankind, you should write about a human, right? So the examples are deforestation of the Amazon, voices of the Indians whose way of life is threatened as an example there, and then the anecdotal about Candy's paper on Jeannie, right? Should be in chapter 4. You want to write a strong ending in this particular research essay. Write an ending that adds something, not tells the reader what they already know. Nothing is more disturbing after I've read a really great essay that I have to reread all the main points again of what I read in a conclusion. Give me something new. Leave me with something that I really can take away from your research essay where I can go like, wow, all right, I got this now. Okay? You want the reader to walk away from something that is really monumental at the end of your and impactful at the end of your research essay. The most important sentences in an essay are the first sentence, the very first sentence, the last sentence of the first paragraph, typically reserved for the thesis statement. That's where you leave the reader before you take them on that journey throughout your research essay. And the third most important sentence in an essay is the very last sentence because that's how you leave the reader, right? Try to avoid the typical in conclusion. Avoid endings that don't feel like endings, they just kind of trail off, right? So, emphasize what's less known about the topic, may be surprising, and answer the who cares questions, right? Talk about weaving in chapter 4 as the weave of the research essay. How do you weave the sources between your voices and the voices of others? How do you frame your quotations? How do you write a good lead in so I know what's coming and the reader know what's coming and then use something with it? Okay. After a quote, do you analyze, interpret, clarify, claim, question? All of these actions after a quote, just don't let a quote hang out there or end a paragraph, right? This is the weave of research writing, the back and forth between your voice and the voices of others. That is the skill of research writing. And okay. So now, moving away from chapter 4, I'm looking at the first draft, the consultation draft. So the first draft, or this is what I can call the consultation draft, has been known to give all 50 points. You can't give all the points for this draft if you meet the criteria. Very simple, straightforward draft. I'm looking for a research essay draft. Be submitted on or before no later than Tuesday, July 14th. That's the due date for the first draft. Satisfy readers' desire for a well-planned text, fresh, engaging purpose, deliberate organizational structure. Which structure you choose, doesn't matter to me, as long as it's clear what kind of organizational structure you're using. You have to draw on a minimum of 6 separate sources purposely selected and used. Employ the strategies of paraphrase, summary, quotation, right? You want to avoid inadvertent plagiarism. I need in-text citations, also those parenthetical citations throughout the draft. You might want to check this section on the section in Blackboard about using and citing sources. Okay. Include your bibliographic list, your works cited or references page. I need to cross-reference your sources, right? That is the next item here. Have appropriate formatting, okay, MLA format, double spacing, indented paragraphs, standard font, 1-inch margin, page numbers. All of this is really important and stretch to a comfortable length between 7 and 8 pages of text, all right? Always your bibliographic list. The works cited page is not part of that. So you want to make sure that you do review these instructions, all right? There is no revisions on this assignment, so if you do not complete this, your grade is your grade. I'm not looking over drafts again. The process is you will upload the first draft as our usual process. Here I've listed the drive instructions, so there should be a copy of your first draft. Talk more about this on the weekend's usual screencast video. All right, but that's just the first draft instructions to go along with the drafting process that matches chapter 4, that aligns with chapter 4. Everybody should be working on exercise 4.3. Okay, if you have any questions, please send me an email about the first draft. Little tip, you might want to look at the final essay draft criteria and grading in week 7 course unit. All right, good luck, stay safe.